All right, welcome back to End of the Double Dragon podcast. It's your boy Shane Greenwood here in Double Dragon Gym in the Southern Shire, and with me I have Trenton Lawrence,
Hello.
Hugh O'Donnell.
Hey,
How are we today, fellas?
Good.
better than last week.
We are. Hey, inside training update. It's good times.
The doors are open.
Yeah. So remember, guys. So we're open now. So feel free to filter back in, restart your memberships,
Yeah.
all the good stuff.
It'd been cool though. Like, we had a lot of faces back. Like, I was pretty impressed with the first night back. Like, the fighters are still filtering back in. They're fucking lazy, but like the general classes, like the beginner, intermediate levels, like the place was packed for first night
awesome,
back.
man. I was really happy to see everyone. All right, so once again, another special episode. We have a guest here. So let me just do the run list from that one. We got to have a look, expand my screen so I can read it. So we have a WKBF Queensland champion, ISKA Queensland champion, WMC Queensland champion, WKBF Australian champion, 2 times WKBF South Pacific champion, 4 times Cage Muay Thai champion, Siam Pro International champion, Limpidi Stadium K of the Night. Say the Thai name stadium because I can't remember it now. Yes, that's it. Local Thai expert there. And Australian Muay Thai Awards K of the Year. It's Mr. Elliot the Dragon Compton. How are you today, sir?
Good, thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure.
Oh, man, it's great to have you on from that one. It's like, it's funny. It's just that one day I just go, no, I'm just like this page. Like, Mr. Elliot, I like Elliot's fights. And then just get a DM straight away. Just go, hey, thanks for the fight. I go, well, we're opening the conversation. Hey, it's like, do you want to?
Yeah, for sure, man. No, it's cool. I saw you guys doing the podcast, and I was like, man, it's cool to see people trying to rebuild the sport of Thai boxing in this country, man. It kind of died off for a bit, so like, it's cool to see things picking up, man. It's cool.
It's an exciting new era that's like Australia's going through.
Absolutely, man. It's like a resurgence, and I think we're going to take over again soon, man.
Oh, definitely, mate. Yeah, so let's just go quickly. Every time that we get someone new on, like the first question we ask is like, what was your first martial arts experience, and like, what drove you to get into martial arts?
Yeah, for sure, man. So I first started training martial arts when I was 4 years old. My old man's my coach, right? So I grew up seeing him go to the gym like every night, and obviously like we'd go to the gym too, and I'd always be watching. And I used to sit and watch Bruce Lee films with him as a kid, and I was just obsessed, man. And like I begged them to take me to the gym. So I started when I was 4. I did my first class, but I was probably still a little bit too young at 4 years old to be part of the class with the bigger kids. So my old man just trained me from home for a year. And then when I was 5, I joined the kids class again. And I kind of came in as the new kid, but I'd already been training for a year. So I kind of like took over, kind of came in with like a lot more knowledge than what the other kids had. And that's pretty much just where it's been for me, man. I've just been obsessed with it from almost the day I could walk, it sounds corny and everybody says this, but for me, it's like, this is what I was born to do. It's like, I don't know anything else, man. It's like, it like you cut me in the middle and it'd be martial arts on the insides, you know what I mean? So that's how I got into it with my old man. And then the rest is history, man. Here we are today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when you started out, I got like 2 things to expand on there, because we got to give him a bit of shine, because your old man's a bit of a legend. Give us a little bit of his kind of a little run through of kind of his martial arts career and what brought him to being a trainer.
Yeah, for sure. It's cool that you say that, man, because, I think a lot of coaches don't get the credit that they deserve, but he's a very humble, quiet man. He will never, sell himself and tell everyone who he is and actually what he's achieved in his life. So he never really gets, the full shout-out that he deserves. So basically, man, he started training in martial arts when he was 15, maybe a little bit younger, but somewhere around 15. He started in different arts like Kempo and things like that. He eventually ended up training, this is back in the UK where I was born, with a guy called Mark. And the system was a style of Kung Fu called Ji-Pai. And it was kind of like similar to a Jeet Kune Do concept where it was like a blend of all styles. And he lived for it, bro. It was like everything that he did, this is before my sister and I were born. And he would train every single night, and he's got some crazy war stories back in the day, and it was like the full old school hardwood floors, freezing cold gym in the UK, no gloves, no shin pads, sparring to the death, like the real traditional kung fu that you hear about. So then as things progressed, he reached pretty much the highest level that you can get to in the Ji-Pai, and the time came that him and my mum wanted to come to Australia to give me and my sister a better lifestyle. Like where we're from in the UK is not particularly a nice area. There's not a lot of opportunity or prospects. So it's not a terrible place, but it's not where we live now. So we moved out to Australia, and he just did his research and kept looking around. We first moved to Adelaide, and he came across a gym in Adelaide, Nino Pillar's International Academy of Martial Arts. So he went down and had a try, and he just fell in love with the way that Nino taught and everything else. And then from there, that's where he really like expanded his knowledge. So he went from like having a good, solid like GPI background, which still encompassed like a lot of like the Taekwondo style techniques and a lot of the traditional Kung Fu, and I mean, it was a real blend. So then he started training in the Silat, which is like an Indonesian and Malaysian martial art, Filipino martial arts. He was training shoot boxing, shoot wrestling with Eric Paulson back in the early 90s. Obviously, he's an instructor in the Jeet Kune Do under Guru Dan Inosanto. I don't know if you know who that is, but that's Bruce Lee's right-hand man.
Yeah.
So over like the course of like 20 years, I guess, at the time that, thereabouts, he kind of developed all these things that kind of led us now into the MMA world. Like, essentially, like, before MMA was a thing, that's what he was doing, like, and I always remember as kids we would travel, like, so he could go and train and learn. Like, I remember being in the States training with Guru Dan Inosanto and Jean-Jacques Machado back in like the mid-90s, and obviously Guru Dan Inosanto, Francis Fong, like all these guys that are like legends, you know what I mean? Like, and he trained under them, and he's an instructor under most of them too. And from there, we just kind of then ventured off in a different direction. We ended up going to Thailand just for a training trip, and we kind of just were there. And my trainer said, "Hey, you want to have a fight?" And I had a fight, and that was that. But because of that time of going to Thailand, he kind of took a different direction in his passion, and became a lot more passionate about Thai boxing, but still kept up with everything else. Like, I mean, I know I'm blowing smoke up his ass because he's my old man, but this guy does not stop, bro. You have no idea, man. Like, I can't even. If you've seen him in the gym or you've been around him, you'll understand, man. Like, it's people refer to him as an encyclopedia of martial arts because the depth of knowledge that he has. But I don't think that even does it justice, man. It's like it's the craziest thing. So from there, then he started training in all different kinds of. He's a second degree black belt in jiu-jitsu now. He's a second degree grandmaster in Filipino martial arts. He's been in like training trips all through the Philippines, fighting random guys on the street, on the beach with sticks and no armor, and like sparring with like live blades, and I think that someone should write to the Oxford Dictionary and say you need to change the definition of martial artist and just put a picture of that guy in, man. Like, because to me, I mean, obviously he's my old man, and I'm biased a little bit, but he is the epitome of martial arts. So I think because of that, that's kind of, it's just filtered through to me naturally, So
yeah, I think I think it's important if we're speaking to you and about your career, like to take that time to like you say you're biased because he's your old man, but like everything you said is true. Like I have a lot of respect for Steve as a martial artist. So it's like and also kind of like a pioneer. In this kind of bringing that knowledge from around the world and kind of setting his feet here. And of course, you're now fighting in one championship, which is one of the biggest martial arts stages in the world. So you can follow that trajectory from all these different pieces. Like, he's just really trying to read that story of like finding martial arts from all these places, and you can see it in very much a modern format with yourself. So just to follow that timeline with kind of you as such a young kid starting martial arts, I know you have quite a spread of sort of traditional martial arts and you were very early going. So what was the style or the styles that you started out with as a young kid?
Yeah, I guess it was kind of like a blend. So our coach in Adelaide, Nino Pillar, he was, don't quote me on this, but I'm pretty sure he was a 5th degree Taekwondo and Hapkido black belt. But he was also the highest ranked instructor under Guru Dan Inosanto outside of the US. And I'm pretty sure, again, don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure he was the second highest ranked next to Joel, who was Guru Dan's assistant, right? So he basically just put this syllabus together that encompassed everything, right? So for us in the kids class, we would do we learned how to punch, how to kick, how to knee, how to elbow. So it'd be a blend of the Thai boxing, Taekwondo, and multiple different striking arts. We'd also do a lot of the Filipino weaponry stuff as kids, like stick work, and never any contact as kids, obviously, but we'd learn all the different numbering systems and flow drills and things like that. There was a big grappling influence as well. I wouldn't necessarily call it Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but it was like a blend of different grappling arts that he'd learned over the time with training with Eric Paulson and guys like this, Yuri Nakamura, and people like that. So it pretty much just became a blend of everything. But the biggest thing that was really kind of drilled into us as kids when we're training, like not just with our first instructor, but like particularly with my dad, because he was so passionate about it, was the Jeet Kune Do concepts. You know, like Jeet Kune Do isn't necessarily a style; it's a concept, it's a thought process, and a way that you can it's not just for training. You know what I mean? It's for your life, and you can adapt the I don't want to say rules is the wrong word, but the principles and the fundamentals to everything in life. So I think that was the biggest thing that I was taught, and that really filtered through into all of our training, and it still does to this day, man. Like I said, I remember traveling the world as kids, and like my old man was just traveled to go and train. Like I remember being in the UK, he was training with Rick Young and Krishna Godhania and all these guys, and at the time, it just seemed like it was normal for me. I just thought that's what everybody did, you know. And then as I got older, I was like, man, like I fully understand his commitment, and it's like just a thing that's trickled through to me now. Like every time we go away, I go and I train, and I find whoever's in that area to learn from. And then because of that, that's kind of, and because of going back to your question, I'm getting off track, but because of what I had at the start in terms of the syllabus that we were taught, and it was like a blend of so many different styles, it's just carried through for the rest of my life and into my career, you know. Like I fight Thai boxing, but if you see me fight, I'm not a traditional Thai stylist, but at the same time I can play Thai style, you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah.
I guess so. Just to kind of expand on the point that you made, would you say that kind of Jeet Kune Do principle is kind of the idea that moved away from, so probably in the past, like maybe the 80s and before, our martial art was a set of moves. This is the way that we do it, right? This is it was very textbook. Like it was a syllabus. Like this is the moves you need to learn to move to this belt. Do you think it was that Jeet Kune Do that kind of started to introduce that idea of like, it's not about these other moves, it's about what problem do you have to solve and how are you going to approach that? Does that kind of sound like?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think you're right on the money there. I think for a long time, martial arts was, this is what we do, and then another martial art says, well, this is what we do to counter that. Because if you look at the history of martial arts and how it came about, it's combat, right? I mean, you can dress it up on however you want in modern day times, but the way that martial arts came around, when you look back at the samurais and things like that, it was like, this is how people protected their family, protected their villages, protected everything, right? So, like, if you take that and they say, well, this village does this, and they like to use punches to hurt people, well, let's use our legs, you know, like we're a taller breed of people maybe, so let's use our legs to keep them away. So it became like this counters that, and then this counters this, and this counters that. But I think with the introduction of Bruce Lee and the Jeet Kune Do, I'm not saying that he was definitely the guy that changed martial arts forever or anything like that. I mean, some would argue that he did, but he definitely, with the Jeet Kune Do principles, it was like you absorb what is useful, reject what is useless, right? And it's like, and you take from any place you can find it, you know, and then you add what is your own as well. So I think with that, when you look at like the way that Bruce used to train and the things that he used to do, I mean, he could box, he could kickbox, he could use the Wing Chun style of trapping and grappling and locking and things like that. But he just had this unique ability to be able to blend everything that he had learned and he had done over the years into like a format. I don't even know what you like. This is the thing about the Jeet Kune Do. It's so hard to like to grasp exactly what it is, but it's a philosophy and it's a thought process more than anything else. So I think because of that, like, I mean, that was in the 60s, right? So then it's only natural, and with the amount of fame that he had, it's only natural that people would like take note of that. You know what I mean? Like you say, like about people being pioneers and things like that. Like he was the pioneer of MMA. He's the pioneer of like blending things together. You know what I mean? And that's how I think personally, like, we ended up where we are now with like a sport and a lifestyle of martial arts that is just so eclectic, you know?
Yeah, and you think kind of like that kind of prevailing idea in that area was more so like I think the shift in thinking was kind of like, rather than I have my moves and you have your moves, and if we go at it, who wins? It's like, could I take some of what I know and some of what you know and kind of put it together a little bit for the situation? Like, that's kind of like that changing kind of like more flexible ideas to like, it's not like religions. It's not like this is my way and that's your way. It's like, let's meet in the middle and figure this out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the biggest thing when you look at it from a combat point of view is kind of like, why would you want to go in and box a boxer if you know that he's a good boxer? If you're looking at it not from necessarily a sport point of view, but from, like you said, combat and life, whatever else, the idea is to take someone where they're uncomfortable, right? So if you know that this guy likes to favor his hands because he's spent the last 20 years boxing, then he was really kind of like one of the first people to be like, well, you know what? Well, to be able to defend that, I need to know how to do it, you know? So I will learn a bit of boxing, and then I'll use what I've learned in boxing, and I'll apply it to the Western style of kickboxing, the savate, the French kickboxing. There's a huge influence on that. And the thing that I feel that really kind of not blew my mind, but the thing that's so different that a lot of people don't think about is fencing, right? You know, the sport fencing. Yeah. So a lot of the footwork in the Junfa Jeet Kune Do concepts is based off the fencing footwork. It's like what you call a pendulum, right? So even like that in itself, so he's gone from like watching Olympic fencing when he was at college to going, well, that's the quickest way to cover distance and nobody else does it. So let's apply that to what we're doing. And then all of a sudden now you're hanging with some of like the fastest guys in the world. You're hanging outside of range and you're beating them to the punch, you know? Like Guru Dan used to tell us stories that Bruce would spar with a boxer and he would go to jab and he would see the jab and he would kick them with his lead leg in the head before they land their jab. You know what I mean? Like that's some serious speed that he's developed from like different styles of martial arts that he's put together. And I don't know, man, like I get super passionate about it because it just blows my mind. Like it's, that's a very like open-minded kind of take to martial arts, which does bring me back to, because I wanted to get into this with you because you're a very interesting stylist to me. I always liked watching you fight, and also kind of knowing about kind of your origins and coming from that very diverse background. I'm always interested. Just like you mentioned as well, like you did a lot of styles, like including some ground fighting and stuff. So what kind of was it? Just like a trip to Thailand that really made you go towards Thai boxing over another combat sport, or what brought you to Muay Thai specifically? Yeah, that's a good question, man. And not many people know this, right? So the thing for me is I never actually set out to be a fighter. It was never, I mean, don't get me wrong, like I love to fight, and I grew up always in trouble and fighting at school and in the street and whatever, but like I got to a point where I was like, I just wanted to learn and I wanted to teach, right? So my father and I would plan on going on this instructor program overseas, and we were going to do that. And, you know, a few things happened, which I won't get into, but we decided, you know what, let's go to Thailand instead. You know what I mean? It's just going to be a better option. You know, we'll have a good holiday together. I was only young and it'll be a cool thing to do. So then I was there and I was training, and to be honest, man, I just fell in love with the Thai culture. I mean, obviously I had experience. I've been to Thailand before. I'd never fully trained in Thailand, but I went there as a kid and whatever else, but I'd never really been fully immersed in it. And my initial plan was I wanted to fight MMA because, like you said, I've been doing shoot boxing and shoot wrestling and all these things since I was a kid. I started jiu-jitsu in primary school, and that was my original goal, was I wanted to fight MMA. But I don't know, man, something just got me about Thai boxing. So I had this fight in Thailand and I got fully stitched up. I got set up like so bad. And I fought reasonably well, but I got my ass handed to me, man. I fought this guy with over 250 plus fights who was a stadium champ, and I had no idea, man. He was like 3 weight divisions above me, and it was a classic Thai stitch up, man. And my Thai trainer at the time had told everyone, like him and the promoter, like collaborated and like told everyone that I was like this superstar from Australia, and I had over 100 fights, and so they put money on me to lose, but the crowd put money on me to win. Yeah. So then, you know what I mean? Like, I would get my ass kicked. They made a load of money. So, but all that aside, man, like, I just loved it. I loved the the atmosphere in the Thai stadium. I fought at the original Bangla stadium, which is shut down now. And you hear a lot of stories about like a lot of Australians getting set up the other way, where they get set up to win. And I'm like, man, why didn't I get a fight like that? But I'm so grateful that I didn't, and I'm so grateful that like the original Bangla stadium. If you ever went there, this is going back 12, nearly 13 years ago. Was like probably one of the most intimidating stadiums I'd ever been in. It was almost like a pit, like the ring was on the ground level, and there was like these like seatings that went straight up, and the people were like overlooking the ring, and it was like old and it was grungy, and it was like a real like what you see in kickboxing, you know what I mean? Yeah. So I was kind of like, oh, this is different, this is intimidating, but that's cool. But there was just something about it, man, that I just loved it, and I kind of had like a bit of a sour taste in my mouth that I got stitched up, and I was like, you know what? I want to do it again. I want to go, and I want to just have like a fair fight this time and see how it goes. So we came back home and we trained, and we went back probably, I think it was like 3 or 4 months later, whatever. And I got matched up, and I had another great fight. This one was an even match, It was like toe to toe for a good 5 rounds, which is pretty rare for the Thais. Like they like to be lazy for the first 2 or 3 for the gambling. But this kid was like, he came at me right from the opening bell, and we had a really good fight. And I remember the 5th round. He won the 4th round, and then the 5th, I was coming back, and I hit him with a massive right hand, and his knees buckled, and the bell went. I remember thinking, man, that round went so quickly. And anyway, so afterwards I said to the promoter, I was like, oh, thanks for having me, because that's okay. I think you would have won the fight, but he won round 4, and that was the money round, and there was a lot of betting, and he won. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I had no idea that was even a thing, Yeah. So, which is cool, like, whatever, man, like I was gutted at the time, but looking back, it's like, it's all part of the journey, you know what I mean? And then from there, because of like the second camp that I did, I had a really good Thai trainer that like really took me under his wing. And what I really liked about it was he respected my old man as well as my coach, and would ask him for advice. And like they really worked together, and we kind of had this like little like Thai family going on, And I think that was just it for me, man. I just loved it. And then I still eventually thought that maybe one day I would fight MMA, but I just wanted to just see how far I could go Thai boxing. And yeah, man, and kind of that was it. I just fell in love with fighting. I came back and I fought a month later on Ian Jacobs' show in Mackay and won. And then that was it, man. I just was on a steam train, and I just kept fighting, and a couple of losses here and there, but I just kept winning and like taking the hardest fights that I could get. Like a lot of people like gave me a lot of shit online, to be honest, about some of the fights that I would take. Like I remember fighting Compton on Evolution, and I'd had like 17 fights, and he'd had 67 KOs in the first round, and he'd had some like crazy like record with like ridiculous, and I copped a lot of shit for it, but I fought and I lost, man. But I had a ball, and I showed people what I had, and I challenged myself, and I think that's why I decided to stick with the Thai boxing, because the community and the culture at the time was different. It was like I said, I copped a lot of shit online, but it was only from a few bad seeds, whereas like the majority of the Thai boxing community was like, man, this is cool, like good on you, man, like, and they kind of encouraged it. You lose, and people like pat you on the back and say, man, that's awesome. Whereas I think at the time the MMA community was a little bit like, if you lost, it was like, well, you should think about retiring. And I was like, what? Nah, man, I just, what I mean? Like, Man United doesn't win every single game they play. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just trying to, like, find my way. I'm trying to challenge myself. And I think that was the thing. There was no one was protecting records, and you were kind of like, people acknowledged when you were trying to step up and not necessarily make a name for yourself, but just try and, like, make a cool journey for you to look back on. And then here we are, man. But, yeah.
Yeah, you make like I think you're on the money there with your take on that. It does remind me, like I was having a conversation with one of our younger guys who's sort of just starting out fighting on that topic about records and stuff. This person's record is that, and then what we started to get to that, like I was trying to say to him, is like, when you've finished fighting, who's going to remember what your record was, right? Like no one's going to remember that you were 15-0, that you were 20-0, or whatever you want. Like
when you fought all those bums as
yeah,
well.
right. Like
Yeah.
people will
You're
remember.
going to put it on your gravestone?
Yeah,
No,
exactly right. Like,
Yeah.
but people will remember if you were the guy that was always there. That was always there, like with his hand up, and that's what would you rather be remembered? Like, would you rather be someone, you know, that maybe one or two people, your mum remembers that you were 18-0, or would you rather be someone that when you're done fighting, done training, you're not like around the sport anymore, or whatever? Would you rather be someone that people bring up and go, he always jumped at the chance to fight the top guy? I'd rather be the latter. I'm sure there's plenty of people that would rather be.
Absolutely, man. I'd rather have a losing record but know that I fought top people than have an undefeated record knowing that I kind of got a lot of gifts, you know?
Yeah.
I remember when I was coming up, there was another guy in the same division as me, and he got to something like 21-0, something like that. And there's a lot of like comparisons between us because he was undefeated and I was doing well, but I'd had a couple of setbacks here and there, and people were like, oh, yeah, no, like, Elliot's good, but he's not that good, you know? And I was like, yeah, okay. But the first time that guy I stepped up, and he got beat. And he didn't just get beat, he got bitched, you know? Like, and it was purely because, like, and, man, I'm not denying the guy's talent. He had a lot of skill and a lot of talent, but he didn't have the experience. And when he stepped up and he fought someone that was a professional, that was experience and had hard fights, whose record might not have looked that great on paper, that he'd fought pretty much everyone who's anyone. This kid just could not live, and he got stopped in the second round, I think it was. Like, bad, you know? And I always remember thinking, like, that's the thing, you know? And I see it a lot, like, these days with guys trying to get into the UFC, you know? I was training in Thailand one time, years and years ago, and my Thai trainer, Nung, at the time, who was like, he was my main Thai trainer. I was with him for a long time. He said to this guy, "Hey, you wanna fight?" I was fighting at Teprasit Stadium, and he said, "You want to fight?" He says, "Not really." And I was like, "What? Like, what are you here for?" You know? And he goes, "Because he was living in Thailand. You know, he was an American guy." He says, "You know, I just don't want to risk any losses on my record because I need to get to 6-0 to be looked at for the UFC." So I was like, yeah, right, okay, cool. And then I spoke to my Thai trainer about it, and he said, yeah, his last fight, he fought someone that wasn't very good, and he only just won. So I was like, okay, but then his record was like, at the time, across Thai boxing and MMA, he was like 5-0 or something like that. And I was like, man, imagine like, and he was a lightweight. Imagine like you sign to the UFC at 6-0, and you step in and like your first fight, someone like Clay Guida or someone. You know what I mean? Like, all of a sudden you're going to go, oh, should have taken that fight. You know what I mean? I wish I knew what to do here. You know, it's like, it's a dangerous game to play, man. And for me, it's just, I don't know, I don't think about a record, man. I think about legacy. That's what's important to me. And the journey, look back and go, you know what, man? Like, I had fun and I really enjoyed it. And I took some fights that were really hard fights and the crowd loved it. And my mum probably didn't, but that's fine, you know? Like, it is what it is, you know?
What's been your most memorable fights? Are there any that stand out?
My most memorable fight would definitely be my fight at Lumpini Stadium. It was I'd always said from like when I was young, I used to tell my old man, I'm going to be a world champion one day. I'm going to be a world champion. And so I'm going to fight at Lumpini Stadium and I'm going to win. So I was fighting out of Fairtex at the time, and the opportunity came up, and it was like obviously one shot, you know. And I knew if I said no, then I wasn't going to get it. Not that I ever would say no. I've never said no to a fight. But it was like, man, this is it. Let's go, you know. So I flew to Thailand, and I lived at Fairtex for a good while, and I trained and I got ready. And we originally agreed to fight at 70 kilos, and at the time I was like 72 or 73, so it's going to be an easy cut. I was like, man, this is meant to be. This is perfect, you know. So anyway, they said to me, for probably about 10 days out, they said, the promoter said that you have to fight at 67 now, otherwise no fight. The fight's changed. And I've been training for ages, and I was like, man, and like, you know, like my wife had been here at the time. She was still my girlfriend. She'd been paying my bills for me, man, so I could like live out my dream, you know, like, and she'd been hustling and I've been away from my family, and I was like, my sister was pregnant. And I was like risking missing all that, and I was like, man, I'm not like risking all this for nothing, like this is my dream. This is everything that I worked for. So I was like, yeah, cool, no worries. Like, it's going to be a 6 kilo cut. It's not ideal, but it is what it is, because I never used to cut weight. I hated it, right? So
Me too.
and yeah, right. Yeah. So anyway, I was like, all right, cool, no worries. Yeah, let's do it. And then I rang the old man. I was like, this is what's happened. And he goes, oh, it's okay. It's a doable cut. It's like 10%, just short of. It'll be cool, no worries. So anyway, he flew over like about a week before the fight, and we trained. And it was the fight was on the Saturday night, and it was a Tuesday morning, and I just finished training. And my trainer says to me, hey, can you just step on the scales? We want to check your weight. So I was like, yeah, cool, no worries. And my scales, which I found out later, were broken from flying to Thailand.
Yeah.
So I was like, yeah, cool, man. Like, stepped on the scales, and they're all talking in Thai, and I could speak a little bit, and I heard them say 78. I was like, what? So I stood off, and I was like, nah, that can't be right. So do it again. So they did it again. And they're like, okay, no, me make mistake. Okay, 79. And I was like, no, that can't be right. But I like kept a straight face, and I was like, no, do it again. It's okay, do it again. So they did it like 2 or 3 times, and each time it came out like 79 kilos. And I was like, oh, shit. So they look at me, they're like, oh, we're going to have to cancel the fight. We're going to have to tell them like 76 or nothing. And I was like, no, it's cool, man. I do this every time. Like, this is like, I cut weight like this every time I fight. It's cool. I promise you I'll make it. No problems. So they're like, oh, okay, like looking at me like, is this kid crazy? So anyway, like me and the old man like picked up my training bag, casually walked back to the room, shut the door, like, what are we going to do? This is some serious shit. So anyway, 3 days, we cut the weight. We lost 12 kilos. It was like definitely the hardest thing that I've ever done.
Yeah.
Looking back, probably the stupidest thing I've ever done too. Nearly died, but that's cool. It's all good. So anyway, the thing with the Lumpini was the weigh-in was on the same day as the fight.
Yeah.
So I didn't even get much time to rehydrate. So made weight, came dead on. Like I was dying, man. I was really hurting, and made weight. They chucked me back in the van. We went back to the camp, and just by chance there was a doctor training there, and he's looking at me, and he was like, "Nah, you're not good, man." So he demanded that the camp took me to a hospital. So they took me to the hospital, and they took me in, and they rehydrated me, and they kept me there all day. And literally, they released me with enough time that I could go and get something to eat, and went straight to the stadium. So I didn't even go back to the camp. My old man went and packed up a bag and got everything ready. So we went from the hospital to the restaurant to the stadium. And I felt pretty good, to be fair, like all things considered. And I warmed up, and like all the Thais were coming up to me, and they were like grabbing my arms and feeling me and like laughing, and they're all like pointing at me from across the stadium. And there's like 10,000 screaming Thais at Lumpini Stadium. This is the original Lumpini Stadium too, and like the atmosphere was like just crazy, man. And my mum had flown over to watch, and I remember like sitting ringside, and thinking, man, this is legit. This is it. This is the moment I'm going to fight at Lumpini Stadium. And my trainer the whole time had been saying, oh, this kid, I'm going to fight. He's really, really good, but it's like a 50-50 matchup. This is really good. He's been fighting at Lumpini for a little while, but, and it was the main show of the week on like Thai TV. It was huge, right? So anyway, stepped in the ring, and my Thai trainer says to my dad, oh, Papa, I make a mistake. This guy's a different guy. This guy's really, really good. And of course, I didn't know this till after the fight. So anyway, we fought, and I ended up knocking him out in the third round with a spin elbow. He hit me with a huge elbow. You've probably seen it. I share it like every second week. And then I got caught, like I wrong-footed myself, and I spun, and I just caught him clean on the chin, knocked him out. I was winning the fight anyway, but it was cool to get that win. And like just the atmosphere of the crowd, like going from being like the Farang that was like probably they didn't want me to be there. They wanted the Thai guys. Like I was the only Farang on the show, and the crowd went crazy, man. They're up on their feet, and the judges were like all clapping and cheering, and I could see my mum in the crowd. And I remember just taking the moment to like stop and just look back at my old man, like, am I dreaming? Like, this is unreal. And then so anyway, we got off stage, and we went and did a TV interview, and that was cool. And I sat backstage and I was taking my wraps off, like still just trying to like soak up the energy, you know. And a guy in a uniform comes over and he says to me, "Can you come see us in the office with your passport, please? Because you've won knockout of the night bonus." And I was like, "Whoa, man! This is the shit that I hear John Wayne talk about. You know what I mean? Like that's me all of a sudden. You know, I'm living that life." So for me, like it was just such a cool thing, and like they gave me. The thing is I had to sign a document to get my knockout bonus. Then I had to go back the next day to collect it, and then I'd fly home. And I don't know if that was when I was supposed to get my gold chain or not, but it's cool. So I was flying out the next day. So this thing, when you win by knockout at Lumpini Stadium, you're supposed to get a gold chain.
Yeah.
Wayne got one, and everybody else got one, but I didn't. So anyway, I just said to the Thai Army guys, because Lumpini was run by the Thai Army, I said to him, "Look, just give everything to my trainer, and he can just have it." And I said to him, like to me, it wasn't a lot of money. It was like $800 or something, maybe something like that. But for him, like that's going to feed his family for ages, you know. And his dad was a Thai boxer of the century. His name was Apidej Sit Harun, and he was very, very sick at the time. And he was also my trainer, and he wasn't going to make it. I knew he wasn't going to make it. So for me, it was a cool moment to be able to like give back to the people that had given me so much. And I didn't care about anything else, man. I just won the biggest thing in the world to me right then, you know. Like that was like my FA Cup final at Wembley, you know. Like that was the thing. So that was definitely the most memorable fight. Probably followed by like my one debut and then my first win with one. Just obviously because of the size of the event, you know. Yeah. But that Lumpini one, man, is like, I mean, I got it tattooed on my back. It meant that much to me, you know. It's cool. And to do it with my old man too, man, that was just like the icing on the cake, you know.
Yeah, it must be kind of crazy to be in like, you know, the real, what they call the Mecca of Muay Thai, you know, overseas at Lumpini, but your family's there too. Like, it's kind of like a cool mix.
Yeah, man, for sure. It's did you guys ever go to the original Lumpini?
No, I think I was only about 16 when they closed the old one.
Yeah, okay.
Got to get
yeah, right. Well, there's like the ring, right, and then there's like a row of like farang around the outside, like tourists going by, and then there's big cages, and then everything else is just Thais. And they've all got like 50 mobile phones in these briefcases, and they're taking bets and gambling, and their energy, man, is just like, I mean, like when I fought at Mall of Asia Arena, when I fought Cosmo, there was 21,000 people in that stadium, and it didn't even come close to Lumpini, which I think was like 10 or 12,000, something like that. Yeah, man, it was like, but then like I could just see my mum. She's got like this big mop of like curly blonde hair, and a sea of people, and I could hear her, man. That's what blew my mind, right? So it was like, I'm like you said, I'm at the Mecca of Thai boxing, the most infamous stadium in the world, like where people would like work their lives to try and fight there, and they never get the opportunity. And I could hear my mum screaming, "Smash him, Elliot!" Oh, it just blew my mind, man. It was cool.
Thanks,
man. So Australian accents can ascend all accents.
Yeah, man, it was cool. It was sick, man. So, yeah.
Kind of one of the saddest things about kind of, you know, Muay Thai sort of history is that they sort of just upped and demolished the old Lumpini. Like, I know it's one of those funny things. Like, I'm sure someone who's really like well in on kind of Thailand and can speak the language could explain it well. But it's also like I would talk to the trainers the last time I was over there, and they say, yeah, we miss Lumpini, we miss the old Lumpini, and I say, why did they close it really? And they'd go, I don't know. Like, you know,
money, man, money.
Yeah.
So Lumpini was like prime real estate in Bangkok, you know, like it was like almost like right in the middle of the tourist like area, and there was like night markets, and there was like these fancy hotels, and then there was like this just grimy stadium right smack bang in the middle that had, and the thing with Lumpini is like the stadium was huge, but the land that it was almost massive because they had a running track out the back of the stadium for you to cut weight on weigh-in days. So, man, like whoever owned it, or I think it might have even been the government, I don't know. They was obviously made an offer that they just couldn't refuse. And yeah, man, they knocked it down. And I don't even know what's there now, man. I'm guessing it'll be like some massive high-rise apartment building.
Yeah, it's something to that tune.
Yeah. Office block or something like that, you know, something that doesn't serve Thailand any help, you know, like that doesn't keep the culture alive, you know, something. Yeah, but
yeah, because I really came up watching like a lot of the big fights are kind of the era that really got me into Thai boxing was that. It's Raja Damnern's probably the major one now, but Lumpini, definitely that era of kind of, when Sanchar was finishing his stadium career and Nongo and Sagadao and Pakon and Sam A, like all those, they're like the imagery of that original Lumpini Stadium is just so cemented in my mind from first watching Muay Thai. Like,
yeah, for sure.
And then like because I thought of the new one, and like when you the name still kind of is revered, like, oh, we're going to Lumpini, and you go, oh, cool, like it's still like, yeah, cool, we'll go to Lumpini Stadium, but then you get in this car and you drive, because you're in Bangkok, but you drive it. It's not even really in Bangkok, and it's definitely not in Lumpini. Like, you drive out, and it's kind of like you get off the sort of motorway and start to drive way out into like nowhere. Like it gets really industrial. It's surrounded by warehouses, and it's a beautiful stadium because it's it's new and it's quite sleek. But it's like you get there and it's like it doesn't have that history. Like it's not in like that's probably the main difference. I've been to Rajadamnern a few times, and it's just Rajadamnern is just in the thick of it in Bangkok, and it still has that feeling. And then the new Lumpini really just feels like it is like a beautiful structure, but it's like they just picked an open lot and just slapped it there. Like it doesn't have that feeling of being like it doesn't feel so much like a piece of history. It's still cool being there, but it doesn't feel like a piece of history.
Yeah, I've heard that. I've never been there, but part of me doesn't want to because my last memory of Lumpini is when I fought there, right? So, but I have heard like obviously it's still like the A class. It's still like the top level guys that fight there, but the atmosphere is just not the same. So the fact that you fought there is still like sick that you got to that level. There's like the A class ties and you're amongst it. But I've heard that the atmosphere is like it's a little bit clinical. It's too clean and
and it's not like like it feels like a silly thing to say to be like, oh, it's too clean, but it's like it's more so like we talked to Chad Collins, and he says like when he compares, he's fought at both the new Lumpini and Rajadamnern, and he just says like to him Rajadamnern is as good as it gets because you can feel the history. Like they have the benches that you get rubbed down on. That's the same bench that was built with the stadium, and like
man.
I think it kind of depends how your frame of mind is, but I think like a lot of fighters have that kind of. I think when you go to one of the stadiums, you feel something like I don't know. I think like you can feel that spirit, and that like I just think like part of that is just knowing you're amongst history and the way that the ties.
Yeah, you absorb that, man. You absorb that atmosphere and that like the energy of like thousands and thousands of fights. You know what I mean? That have like gone on, and like you said, it's history, and it's like it motivates you and inspires you to do the best that you can. Whereas when something's brand new and clean and new, it's kind of like you don't feel like you're part of the history, so to speak. Although you probably are more so because it's new. You know what I mean? You're like some of the pioneers to fight there, but it just doesn't have that same feeling,
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, for sure.
But to get into kind of pull it into sort of what you're doing these days, I'm interested to talk to you about this because it's something that fascinates me. We talked a bit. So obviously you're with One Championship now. They like the fights in the cage with the little gloves, but you're not new to that. So they were doing little gloves Muay Thai in Queensland before it was cool, and like I was quite interested by like when caged Muay Thai came about when Wayne and Angie put it together. There seemed to be kind of like a collection of fighters that really were already elite Thai boxers, but they really rose to the top of that format. And I'd really say you were one of those. I mean, probably more so than anyone. Like, did anyone kind of win the strap as many times as you? I don't think so.
Not that I know of. I know, obviously, Michael Bernardo did really well, and I mean, John Wayne did well. But I don't think, again, don't quote me, I could be wrong, but I don't think anybody had as many consecutive title defenses as I did in the same division.
Yeah, I don't think so either. It's not like, you could really access the record, but I didn't, you were one of the busiest. Either way, you were one of the busiest.
Yeah.
I'm curious to see what you think about your style, really, because some Thai boxers don't take to the little gloves well at all. So I'm curious as to what Well, first of all, what attributes of your style do you think really made the little gloves sort of your thing?
Definitely the head movement, man. It's I grew up in MMA gloves, bro. You know, like as I was coming up in the sport, a lot of my training partners were MMA guys. You know, and I would spar with them for their MMA fights, and I'd get down with them, and almost in the 4-ounce fight MMA gloves, and we'd spar in a cage. And so for me, like when this happened, I was like, man, this is just another night of training for me. This is nothing different, you know. And everyone's like losing their mind, and so I think that the thing for me is like the traditional style of, particularly in the Western Thai boxing, this double cover is a big tool that people use, right? But that's easy to do when you've got 8 or 10 ounce gloves on. But when you got 4 ounce gloves on, man, it's a different kettle of fish. And I promise you, if there's a hole, I'll find it, right? Whereas in 10 ounce gloves, it's harder to find. I think the other thing that people rely on a lot in traditional Thai boxing is they like to use the ropes, right? So they'll lean back out of the way. And on the first and second ever cage Muay Thai events, you saw so many people get knocked out. So you got to lean back out of the way, and wait, that's right, the fence doesn't move, you know, bang, they'd get cleaned up. So for me, like definitely the head movement, the way that I defend as well, you know, like again, like a lot of Thai boxing is I go, you go, you know. So a lot of people like wait for someone to stop and then they try and return, whereas I try to intercept. It's the whole Bruce Lee Jeet Kune Do thing again, way of the intercepting fist, right? So I'll never let people get a roll on, you know. I'll always try and intercept what they do. So I think that coupled with the head movement that I spoke about really played into my defensive aspect of that. And then I hit from different angles, you know. I don't hit from the generic angles that a lot of people hit from, and that's what allows me to be able to find the holes in the 4 ounce gloves, you know, where people would kind of try and hide behind their forearms or whatever. I'll be able to like punch around their guard, and even things like rather than hitting this way, I'll kind of hit with a vertical fist and things like that to try and to find the gaps. And I think that's what made me successful in the cage, you know. And like I know how to use the cage like effectively. Like when I knocked out Harley Avison, everybody talks about the head kick that I knocked him out with, which was huge. But what they don't see is beforehand how I dropped him that led to that. You know, like because of my experience, he was leaning against the fence and I swept his leg. Whereas most people that didn't have the experience in the cage that I had would have swept him all the way over. But I swept him just enough that he would fall into the cage but still be on his feet. So it was fair game, you know? Yeah. And then I cracked him with a left hand, which dropped him. And then that's what set up my head kick knockout. So I think that was really what kind of made me successful in understanding how to use the environment to my advantage rather than just like, oh, well, I'll just fight the same way as I always fight, but it's just in a different arena. I think that's what it comes down to, you know?
Yep. And so when, you know, obviously it's quite a stark change in format to go from, so most of your career had been in the ring with the 8 and 10 ounce gloves, and now to get this offer, like, you know, do you want to come and fight in MMA gloves in a cage? Does your training change much? Like you said, you had that experience already as a backing. Did you change kind of your training methods much to allow for that?
Yes and no. Like, yes, in a sense that I changed my offensive attack a lot. But even when I fight in like boxing gloves, 8 or 10 ounce gloves, I don't rely on covering for my defensive then either. You watch me fight, I'm very much, I like to parry and move my head because I feel like when I'm covering like this, I can't return, you know, like I can elbow maybe, but for me to punch, I have to drop my hands and then go. Whereas I find that when I'm using my parries and my head movement, bang, I can hit on the half beat, I can hit in between the beats, I can hit on the same beat. It just gives me a lot more options. So in regards to that, like not much changes, but in terms of hitting in the 4 ounce gloves, it is different, man. Like you see a lot of the guys, like when they fight for the first time 4 ounce gloves, man, like the inside of their knuckles are all like busted up, but they're punching, but they're not actually finding the big knuckles every time because they get away with kind of like being a little bit lazy on it, and like things like punching around the guard and finding that hole with your index knuckle and just things like that kind of change things. But a big thing for me is in the Thai boxing that a lot of people don't do is because of my background in the Wing Chun and the Jeet Kune Do and the trapping and grappling, a lot of it for me was like controlling the wrists and like things like that, and like being able to like scoop and pull down on the arms and pin it and like cross people over so like they can't like use their left or right hand depending on which way I do it. So a lot of it was like implementing the different styles of martial arts that I've done, and actually, see, that was the thing for me. I think I didn't see it as a Thai boxing fight. Everyone was calling it a Thai boxing fight, and I never saw it that way. I just saw it as like, this is just a martial arts fight now. This is, I got to like fit into the Muay Thai rule set, but I could employ all of the skills that I had been doing since I was a kid in so many different areas, and like my clinch game was so much different because I could literally like control biceps. I could control like, like if you talk like to any jiu-jitsu guy, you've got handles, like you've got handles on your wrist, you've got handles on your elbows and things like that. And I could really control people by doing that. And you can see that a lot of people were confused, man. And even like things like punching into the sternum and things like that, like in a 10-ounce boxing glove is like not a big deal, and like in a 4-ounce glove is different, like I fought Nathan Epps from the UK and I punched him in the bicep, bro. I punched him with a right hand, or maybe it was a left hand. I think it was a left hand. He threw an overhand right, and I threw my jab, and I punched him and it was clean, man. I felt my knuckles like pierce his bicep, bro. And he said to me afterwards, he's like, "Man, that hurt so much. Like, did you do that on purpose?" I was like, "Yeah, I did it on purpose." Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's like, "Man, I couldn't throw my right hand for the rest of the fight." So it's like just little like different things like that I think a lot of people don't. I don't know, man. I'm pretty creative when I train. You ask any of my training partners, man. I think of the weirdest things to hit them with, and if I make it work, you know what I mean. So I think that's what kind of made me successful under the cage rule set,
Yeah, and you touched on one thing that I like to get, because obviously my only experience is in the 10-ounce glove, so I do find it interesting to speak to people about the differences that come up in those little gloves. Because you touched on it, do you feel like it kind of opens your options up in the clinch a little bit? Because like obviously that traditional Thai way to clinch is they don't wear gloves and they lock their hands right together and they grip and stuff, and so do you think like it's almost kind of truer to that traditional style of clinching to have the open hands of the MMA gloves?
Yeah, I think so, man. Because like you think, like when you clinch in Thailand, you never wear gloves.
Yeah.
Like obviously when you fight, you do, but like when you're in the gym, they make you clinch, no gloves, no wraps. So to a degree, it's similar there, but I think if you know how to use your fingers and things properly, it gives you so much more control of people. Whereas I think even when you see guys that still fight now, they're like even in a 4-ounce glove, they're still cupping their hands and trying to control this way. Whereas like you can grab the wrist and you can do so many different things. And the way that you can like pin, like I've got some like cool things where like even when I take from like some of the MMA style of things where like if they've got an underhook, I can overhook and then pass the other hand and grab it. So now I've got both hands trapped, but I've got one hand free, so I can continue to hit them with the other hand, and that's completely legal, things like that. So I think that the clinch game gets a lot more interesting if you know how to use it. And I think now with people are really starting to open their eyes to like, let's like fully make sure we fit in with the rule set here and like make sure that we're understanding like how far we can get with the different type of gloves, and I think it's only going to get better because of that. So really I should stop telling people about all these things. They're going to work it out.
Keep it close to the chest.
Well, he's talking about one, but before I get to that, like, it's interesting that you say, like, would you say to some, like, the fighters now, like, to look and expand your repertoire, like, obviously do Thai boxing. You got Thai box, yeah, you got to do the Muay Thai, but maybe, like, learn something from a wrestler or learn, like, something from jiu-jitsu, just like the...
Absolutely, man. Yeah, 100%. So even in my Thai style grapple, I employ so many fundamentals and even specific techniques from Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu that I've done over the years. Like to the point where I'll use like a standing De La Riva hook on someone to shut them down. This is the thing with me, and again, it comes back to the whole Jeet Kune Do thing, like take from everywhere, If it works, it works, man. If it doesn't, then you'll find out pretty quickly, and lesson learned. So, man, that would be 100% my advice to anyone. It's like, I mean, if you're passionate about Thai boxing, then that's cool. And if that works for you and that's your style, but you're going to come to a point where you're going to meet someone that's as good at Thai boxing as you are. So how are you going to beat that guy if you're 50-50? But also, how's he going to beat you, right? It becomes who can take more punishment. But if you can, like, expand your repertoire and, like, open your mind, so to speak, you'll you'll have so many different things where it's like, all right, well, I might not use this every single time I fight, but if I come up against someone that's got like the same skill set and the same attributes as me, I'll have a way to get around it rather than like, oh, well, I'll just do what I always do and hope for the best. Do you know what I mean?
Mm. And do you find that's not like really the common take in Muay Thai? Like people want to be a little bit more rigid and
I think it's getting better.
yeah.
I think like you even look at like the new breed of Thai fighters that are coming out, man, they've got wicked hands.
Yeah.
Whereas a little while ago, man, they didn't. You know, it was like I always used to get in trouble for using my hands in sparring in Thailand. You know, it was like, no, you got to kick. Like punches don't score. Whereas now, like you look at guys like Rodtang and people like that, man, these guys have just got wicked hands. So I do think that it is changing, and I think again, like with the implement of like one championship in the cage, and like now you got a lot of Thai boxers fighting kickboxers and kickboxers fighting Thai boxers. You've even got guys with MMA backgrounds fighting in different rule sets. So I think people are like really realizing like, oh shit, I kind of have to learn how, if I'm going to fight a kickboxer as a Thai boxer, I've got to know how to throw some punches because I can't just keep kicking, you know? Like you look at Siddharchai, for example, like, man, he's got such a Thai style, but he has blended it and adapted it to suit kickboxing, hence why he was like 5-time glory champ or whatever he was, you know? So I definitely think that it's changing, but you're right, for a long time, it was frowned upon, man. Like, I've not been invited back to different shows over the years because of my style, you know, because I'm not like all my weight on my back foot, bouncing my front foot up and down. I've got a very different sort of style. It's not the classic Thai boxing style, but it works, you know, and it's exciting, you know, like no one knows what I'm going to do next because I don't know what I'm going to do next, you know what I mean? It's just like it's explosive and flamboyant, and I don't know, man, I think that's what people want to see these days. They're like, as much as like I love like classic Thai boxing and I love seeing like two top Thais go at it, I think like the world is opening new doors now. People are like wanting to see different things. And you see like likes of Conor McGregor, for example, who comes into like a boxing and wrestling dominated UFC and brings in his Taekwondo and karate style background and starts knocking people out with this vicious left hand. It's like almost reminiscent of like a reverse punch from his karate days. And it's like, people are like, man, it's cool because it's different. And I think that's what's going to be the difference with one championship versus the UFC as things progress, because I think there's so much more variety now. And not even just from like kickboxing, Thai boxing, MMA, and even within just MMA itself. Like if you look back at like the old legend days, even prior to a degree, and one championship before they were doing the Super Series, there was so much diversity in the athletes, you know, like guys would be coming in from like a wushu background, sandar background, and I mean, they still knew how to wrestle, they still knew how to do jiu-jitsu, but their main focus was like a traditional martial art that they had spent like forever learning, and they adapted it to suit the modern rule set, you know. So I think that's going to be the difference for both Thai boxing and the MMA moving forward.
So, like, yeah, we talked about one a couple of times. So let's get into it from there. So, like, you're like one of the first Aussies to be ever signed on to one from that. Like, well, how did the process actually happen? How did you get in contact with them? Were they going to go in contact with you? Like, how did it go down?
A bit of both. So, I was the first Australian to ever fight for one championship, and the first Australian to win.
First to win as well, yeah.
Yeah, and so I saw that they did a cage Muay Thai fight with Sam A and
Joseph Lassiri.
What's that?
Was that Joseph Lassiri first up for Sam A, the Italian?
It could have been. I can't remember now. It was a while ago. And I remember seeing it, and I was like, and at the time I was in talks with like 2 other major promotions, and we we're kind of going back and forth, and I was like, oh, maybe I'll just get like a one-fight deal with these guys if that's what they're doing, and then that'll tie me over. And I mean, I was a big fan of one championship for a long time, and I was like, yeah, cool. So my dad had a few connections with other fighters that he trained, so he knew the guys at one. So he reached out to Rick and said, hey, Rick, my son, this is his record, man. Like, I see you guys are doing cage Muay Thai. He's never been beaten in the cage. This is like who he's fought, what he's done. And Rick was like, yeah, awesome, man. Like, right now we're not sure what we're doing, but we'll get back to you. So, like, they weren't sure if it was just as a one-off or whatever, you know. They were just kind of testing the waters. So anyway, like, some time went by and we didn't really hear anything. And, you know, it was like, all right, cool, no worries. Like, Christmas happened and things like that. Then out of nowhere, we get this email saying, hey, you guys still interested in fighting with one? I was like, yeah. So he's like, all right, cool. I'll get back to you. So then a couple of days later, he emails me. He says, hey, or emails my dad and says, hey, would you fight Cosmo Alexandre? And my dad didn't even have to talk to me. He just said, yep. So then he goes, okay, cool. Like, are you happy to fight him under MMA rules? So my dad's like, I didn't know Cosmo did MMA. He goes, yeah, he's 7-1. He fought for Bellator and everything.
Yeah.
So again, my dad didn't even call me. He was like, yep, no worries, all good. So he rings me, he goes, hey, you want to fight Cosmo? I was like, yep. He's like, oh, okay. You want to fight him MMA? Yep. And so I was like, all right, cool. So we signed it, man. We're ready to go MMA. And about 2 days later, he emails again. They're like, actually, would you be open to a rule change? So I was like, yeah. So they said, will you fight Thai boxing? So I was like, yeah, no worries. So they said, well, look, if you want, we'll offer you a multi-fight deal and we'll incorporate MMA clause in the contract. So you got both Thai boxing and MMA. So I was like, all right, cool. So then they sent through a 6-fight contract and it was good, man. Like, the money was good. And we're like, cool, bro. Like, let's do it. So, and like I said, I've been talking to a couple of European-based promotions, one American, and it was like, it was arduous, man. It was like back and forth. And in the end, I was like, man, these guys are like straight to it. You know what I mean? They're right on it. Yep, let's go. So we signed it. And then 3 weeks later, 2.5 weeks later-ish, I fought Cosmo. So literally it was short notice, man. I hadn't fought in a while. And, you know, like everything was awesome, man. The way they looked after us was sweet. And I was stoked to be there. And, you know, I fought and, man, I had a great first round and a great second round. And I just got caught with a step-up knee, which if you listen to the commentary, Michael Chiavello says either Elliot's going to stop him with elbows or Cosmo's going to stop him with knees. And I cut him pretty bad in the first round. You can't really see it on the camera, but he got like 8 stitches. It was between his cornrows, man. I like hit him with this spike elbow, and it was like, boom, it was perfect. And yeah, man, I felt good. And unfortunately, I got caught, but it was a cool experience, man. Cosmo's a legend of a dude too, man. Like the whole like fight week, we'd like see each other in the lift in a hotel or at a restaurant, and we'd talk and hang out, and like it was like cool. And then even on fight night, man, like it was like a half an hour, 45 minutes before we're due to fight, and we're like out in the corridor just having a chat, man. You know, like it was like, anyway, bro, I see you out there. You know, it was cool. And then even when I got in the ring, man, like I run around, like I always get in, and I touch gloves with my opponent always. And as I touch gloves, he's like, hey, man, I really like your walkout song. And I was like, oh, cool, thanks, man. And then then he took my soul with the left knee. So that was that, you know. That was cool, though.
Yeah. So, like, you're the first person we ever had on here that's, like, fought for one before. And, like, was that back when you first fought in, like, the weigh-in stuff? Like, a lot of people ask, like, you know, hey, what's the deal? Like, do they check in before, like, a couple of weeks beforehand? And, like, they do a couple weigh-ins from there? What's the deal?
So contractually, you have to be within 5% of your weight all of the time. So for me, I fight at lightweight, which is 77 kilos, 77.1. So I have to be roughly 80.5, no heavier, which I never am anyway. I always weigh in under. So the way that it works is they can just randomly test you, like come and like randomly check your weight and check your hydration. But generally, you've got to weigh in twice, right? So the weigh-in is normally at 1 o'clock. Say the fight's a Friday night, 1 o'clock on a Wednesday and 1 o'clock on a Thursday. But to pass weigh-in, you have to pee in a cup, and they specific gravity test it. There's like a machine that they put in, and it tells them like the salt to water ratio. I'm assuming, I don't know the full science behind it, but basically it tells you if you're dehydrated or not. So you got to be under 0.250. Anything above that, you're too dehydrated, and anything below is clear. So 0.000 is just pure distilled water. So you pee in the cup, they test it. If you pass the hydration, then you step straight on the scales. And then if you pass like your weight, then you make it. If you miss hydration or weight on either one of those days, you have to weigh in on fight day. And if you miss on fight day, your opponent has to be within 5% of your opponent's weigh-in weight, not the cutoff. So let's say, for example, you fight at 77, but you weigh in at 73. He has to be within 5% of your weigh-in weight at 73, not 77, to make sure that everyone's safe. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah. To be fair, that very rarely happens.
Yeah.
But man, when I fought in Myanmar, the guy missed weight. You know, yeah, it is what it is. He missed weight and missed hydration on both days, and had to do it on fight day. And I didn't even see what he did on fight day. I'm assuming he made it, but I didn't bother asking. So, yeah, man, like that's pretty much how it works. It sounds like super complicated, but it's actually not, man. It's like it's only complicated if you try and cheat it.
Yeah.
You know, and like I think that was the thing with the guy that I fought. Like I don't know. He said he was sick, so maybe he was. I shouldn't throw stones, but at the end of the day, man, like if you show up and you're on weight, you just eat and drink normally. That's it. It's simple. It's to stop people from cutting weight. So if you're trying to cut weight and you're trying to find a way around the system, yeah, I'm sure it's tricky. But like for me, man, I walk around underweight. I think the heaviest that I ever weighed in for a fight with one championship for a 77.1 kilo cutoff was 76 flat. So I'm like a kilo under, and the most dehydrated I've ever been was 0.031 or something, which is like next to fully hydrated. So it's easy, man. Like it's a breeze for me, you know.
Yeah.
Like I contemplated even going down to featherweight, but they offered me a couple of fights at featherweight. One was against Yod, and man, I would have loved to have done it, but I just couldn't make it, bro. And we talked about a catch weight or whatever, but he wanted to go too low, and I was like, I just don't want to risk my health anymore, man. Like it's not worth it, especially to fight someone like Yod, who's an absolute killer. I want to feel good. I want to be like distraught. You know what I mean? Like 100%. So. Yeah, man, I love it, bro. I don't think the weigh-in system is wicked. I don't think everyone should do it. I mean, it's probably got some flaws if you spoke to some scientists about it, but it's better than these guys that are sitting in the sauna for like 6 weeks at a time to make weight, you know, like, and then getting in and they're like 15 kilos heavier than their opponent and someone's getting hurt. I think it's great, man. Like, I never realized how good I felt until I fought Cosmo for not cutting weight. Because obviously everyone cuts a little bit or whatever, but I remember walking out thinking, man, I feel so alert. Like I feel like I was so on. And then when I fought, I felt awesome, man, up until you need me. But I was like, man, this is like, I felt sharp. I felt like I was in the Matrix, man. And the only thing I could put that down to is obviously adrenaline for being on the big show. But like the fact that I hadn't cut weight and I felt healthy. I know that sounds ridiculous as an athlete. You should feel healthy on game day, but and anyone that's a fighter will tell you, like, most fighters don't feel healthy on game day, bro. You know what I mean? They're like, I'm lucky to be here, you know? Like, it's, so.
Yeah. And did that move to one, like, so was the weighing protocol kind of something that was considered in the lead up? And did you move up in weight when you went to one? Or were you just kind of, the weight that you preferred to fight at, you were comfortable with under that?
No, so Rick pretty much just asked us, like, what weight do we normally fight at? And I fought at, like, between 70 and 72.5. Yeah. So he's like, okay, and what do you normally walk around at? And I was like, 77-ish, you know, 77, 78 sometimes if I'm being lazy. So he's like, all right, cool, you're going to be a lightweight. That'd be perfect. We're looking for lightweights. So, yeah, man, that was that. It was easy. There was no real thought went into it. When I fought Cosmo, I actually weighed in at like 74.1 on the first day and 73.8 on the second day. I don't know what happened, bro, but I got so light. It was like I was working with a dietitian that just, like, either really knew his shit or was like, man, I just want to play this super safe, you know? Which was crazy because, like, I remember leaving. I flew out from Brisbane at like 76.8 or something, and I was like, "Oh, that's pretty close." Like, I've got 300 grams to play with. And then when I landed, I was like 75, and we landed on the Monday. And by the time I weighed in, I was like 74.1 and 73.9, where he just knew how to, like, eat the right foods. I don't know what it was, man. And then when I stepped in, Cosmo, so we fought on Friday night. Cosmo posted on the Sunday that he was 93 kilos or something. Oh. Yeah, bro. And I was like, I stepped on the scales and I was 74.9.
Yeah, Cosmo's a big dude, man.
He gets bigger every round.
Yeah, that's
nuts, bro. Yeah, man.
Yeah, he's a big fella.
Yeah. Cool. So yeah, man. That's kind of how, like, the catch weight and maybe featherweight kind of came up. But I mean, like, I just didn't. I couldn't do it to myself, man. I hadn't been walking around at 70 kilos since I was like 21 years old, and now I'm like 31, and I know I look 21, but it was too much, man. So for the sake of my health and performance, we decided to stay at 77, and I had a new strength and conditioning coach that I just started working with when I signed with one. So we just pumped iron for a few months, man. I put on a couple of kilos, and like now I'm good, man. Like I don't worry about not making weight. I just train, and I work with Geordie Sullivan, the fight dietitian.
Oh yeah.
And we're like super in tune with each other, and yeah, man, like life's good, bro. I eat good food, and
It's a nice way to live.
the way it should be.
yeah, man.
You mentioned you've trained jiu-jitsu for a while. How long have you been doing that for?
I started jiu-jitsu when I was I think it was 8, so grade 6. However old you're in grade 6, maybe that was 9.
Yeah.
I don't know, something like that. But before I did jiu-jitsu, I did a lot of no-gi stuff with my dad, like in the shoot wrestling and things like that, training with Eric Paulson and those guys. So it was kind of it was just a natural progression. You know, we shared a gym with a guy that's a jiu-jitsu guy who's Damus Fry, and my old man was training under him, and it just kind of was a natural progression. And to be fair, I'm not as consistent with jiu-jitsu. Well, actually, I am now, but from through my teen years, I really focus on my striking a lot more. But from probably 18 onwards, I'm on the mat every single day, man. Obviously, my old man it sounds like I'm exaggerating, but he would literally do 8 hours of jiu-jitsu every day. Because he's a PT, right? So a lot of his clients are jiu-jitsu guys, so he's just constantly rolling. And we've got a few high-level brown belts, high-level purple belts, and stuff in the gym. And if we ever get half an hour, I mean, to be fair, not at the moment with COVID, but if we ever get an hour, half an hour, all we do is train, man. We'll roll, or yeah, man, I love it, bro. It's the thing that sometimes, you guys get it, when you're training for a fight in Thai boxing, there's always pressure. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, man, I love pressure. I feed off pressure. It's I feel like that's what makes me respond and react. But sometimes it's nice to just do something where there's it doesn't matter if you don't get something that day. It's not going to affect you. It's not going to upset the rhythm of your camp. You can just train, and it's my escape from everything. You know. Having said that, I do want to compete jiu-jitsu again. I haven't competed jiu-jitsu since I was a kid. But I will. I don't know if maybe I'll do it after fighting. I mean, part of me wants to leave it there as my retirement plan, you know, so I've got something to focus on and something that I can move into, go and do the Masters and things like that. But
in Vegas,
yeah, especially now I'm an old geezer, you know, I don't know, man. I just I just love rolling, man. It's so yeah, I'll see what happens there. But I mean, I'm definitely keen to fight MMA too, so I got to make sure that I stay super active on that. So I do a lot of gi and no gi jiu-jitsu. I still train with Damien Brown's one of my main sparring partners, ex-UFC, and Aaron Blackie and Matt Seed and Jaden Binney. These guys, man, these guys are killers, bro. A lot of people might not know who some of these younger guys are, man, but you guys will know pretty soon, man. These guys are killers, bro. So
what belt have you gotten to in jiu-jitsu?
I'm a brown belt.
Cool.
Yeah. So I've been a brown belt now for 18 months or something like that. Yeah. So which is crazy because I've been doing jiu-jitsu for so long, but that's the downside of having your dad as your coach. It's the level of things is so much higher that you got to, you know what I mean? And especially because he's very particular on he will never have anyone question did you just get that because your dad's the coach? It's you know what I mean? If someone's got to do 10 to get something, I've got to do 100 to make sure that I've fully earned it, which I love, man. It comes back to we were saying with fighting, you don't want to have this perfect record and be yeah, but I only got it because I fought bums. Yeah. Same things, I wouldn't want to be a second degree black belt and go, yeah, I only got it because that's my coach. You know what I mean? I want to know that I've earned it. I'd know, if I go and travel and I go and do jiu-jitsu, I know I've earned it because I can hang with some of these guys, you know what I mean? That are top, some of the jiu-jitsu guys that I've trained with over in the US and things like that. I mean, to be honest, I'm not going to call them out and fight them, but I mean, I hang with some of these high-level brown belts and high-level black belts and super famous gyms, and that I'm happy with that, you know. So I know that man, I've earned to get to where I am, and I think that's important, you know.
Yeah. What's your favorite submission?
Favorite submission, man, the golden triangle, bro.
Yeah, I love it too. Yeah.
Yeah, man. You ask the boys, bro. I triangle everyone, man. I got these long ass stupid legs, and I got some real cool like funky setups that I get people with, and
Yeah.
that's my go-to.
Nice.
Yeah, man.
It's my favourite as well. I'm trying to convince Shane. He's got little stumpy hobbit legs. I'm trying to convince him they'll work.
Guillotine to rear naked all day. That's
Listen, you mentioned also that you incorporated some jiu-jitsu techniques with your Muay Thai. You mentioned the De La Riva guard in your Muay
Yeah,
Thai.
so I just came across it one day in the gym. I was grappling with this guy that just like he was a better grappler than me, to be honest. Like, and he was just non-stop. Like, he'd get me against the ropes, and he's just knee, and I was trying knee guard, and I was trying all these things. And I just couldn't shut him down. And it just happened that I threaded my leg around the outside, and I put my hook on the far leg as he went to knee. And man, he couldn't knee. And I wasn't sweeping him, so it's not technically illegal for Thai boxing. It's just shut him down. And from there, then I worked out cool. Well, now I've got this. I use the ropes as a post or the cage as a post. I've got this, and I almost apply so much pressure into his leg that his post becomes my post, and then now I've got my arms free, and I can type his arms, and I can continue to hit an elbow, and they kind of become paralyzed. And then you can kind of use that to then hop around and turn them and put them against the fence. So then from there, I just kind of just play around with things like that, different sweeps from guard and stuff I will use, but obviously standing. Because if you think about jiu-jitsu, right, if you look at someone like guard, right, if this is their person on the back, generally speaking, they're on top here, right, or whatever. So if you take that same position, you stand upright, it's the same position as a Thai clinch. So there's so many different variations that you can apply. And one of my main training partners, Aaron Blackie, is a judo black belt. So and he's also a jiu-jitsu black belt too. So and a very good jiu-jitsu black belt. So we kind of just bounce ideas off each other with a bit of judo, a bit of jiu-jitsu, a bit of Thai clinching, and just play around and see what we can come up with, man. And I think it's cool, bro, because it's when I go and clinch with the Thais or some of the other guys that I hit them with shit that they'd never seen before, and it's and it's cool, man. And then I remember we were cornering Damo one fight when he was fighting the UFC. He was fighting a guy, Frank Camacho, who had this wicked foot trip, and I remember watching this Thai that was negating a foot trip by hitting it almost like a knee tap, but was using pushing on the hip, and I was thinking at the time, I was like, man, I'm going to use that. And I kind of developed it for Thai boxing over the time. And I remember showing Damo in the dressing room, and Aaron was like, man, that's cool. I'm a judo black belt, and I've never seen that before. That's cool. So anyway, we kind of drilled it in the dressing room 5 minutes before he went out to fight, and he fought. And sure enough, Frank went to hit this this trip, and Damo knee tapped him, man, and put him on his back. And it's what we just drilled, and it was then it was this crossover of that knee tap's almost like a wrestling / also jiu-jitsu style takedown that I'd use for Thai boxing, that we did now blended to MMA that's been used at the highest level in the UFC. So it's cool to kind of see it all come together,
It's
Yeah,
fantastic. You can gel those different fighting styles and concepts all together.
Exactly, man. It's again, it comes back to the whole thing that I've been saying this whole time. The Jeet Kune Do concept will apply to everything, man. It's and I think that's what gets me so passionate about it, man. It's a never-ending journey. Once you think you know something, you don't, bro. It's that. I remember GSP said it, the more I learn, the less I know. You know what I mean? And it's man, it's so true.
100%.
Which begs the question: what? Obviously, you got all the options. What rule set do we see Elliot Compton in one championship next?
Oh, you put me on the spot there, bro. Well, put it this way, right? I was signed to fight on the 10th of April in Jakarta on the One Infinity show. That new Liga show that they've just announced that they're doing. It's with all the bells and whistles and everything. So I can't tell you who I was going to fight because the fight's still going to happen, and I've sworn to secrecy until they've announced it. But it was a kickboxing fight.
Okay.
Yeah, against a very big name.
Okay.
I'll let you guys do the maths. Look at the rankings. You'll work it out.
Exciting.
In my opinion, it's the biggest fight in the sport, especially in the sport of kickboxing. On the biggest show of the year, and so that's what I was So essentially, K1 rules.
Yeah.
But if I had to choose a preferred rule set, it'd probably be the Thai boxing. But I also want to fight shoot boxing, bro. I know, like Chartreuse kind of hinted at it, and I know number 4 in the division's Andy Sauer. So
Okay.
if this other fight that I signed, it doesn't go through or whatever, then I mean that could be an option too. I mean, I love Andy Sauer. Don't take that the wrong way. I'm not calling him out, trying to flex on him, but it'd be cool to fight him.
Yeah,
shoot boxer. Man, I'd love to actually fight him MMA too.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. I just think it'd be an interesting matchup. Like kickboxer versus Thai boxer on MMA rules. It's intriguing.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
The good thing about one as well, like they seem very open. Like you've seen the Sanda match them before. They had the boxing title, and also they're pretty open to like going, hey, let's see some like cool martial arts stuff.
Yeah, exactly. They do the grappling matches, like they had Askren and Aoki, and man, like I think that's cool, man. Like it's eclectic and it's like it opens. This is what I think is great about why I think like Thai boxing is making a resurgence, right? So with the growth of the UFC, like they kind of blew everyone out of the water, right? MMA became this new thing. Like back in the day, if you said you did MMA, people would go, "Oh, is that kind of like kickboxing?" Whereas now you say, "Oh, I'm a kickboxer," they go, "Oh, you fight in the UFC?" It's like it's completely switched through mainstream media, mainstream marketing, and everything else. And the boxing to a degree, but mainly like kickboxing and Thai boxing kind of got like pushed aside and people were like forgot about it, And but it was shit because like we were trained as hard as anybody else, and these MMA guys were getting like all the credit, and it's like, well, we're equally as talented and train as hard and everything else. And like the thing that blew everyone's mind is people hated watching MMA fights that was like predominantly a ground fight. They wanted to see two guys stand up and hit each other, So it was like, that's what we do. You know what I mean? Like tune in to watch us, So I think the cool thing with one is where they've now got Thai boxing and kickboxing, they're exposing like these world-class athletes to the mainstream MMA fans now. And they've done it so well. Like they got Demetrius Johnson, they got Eddie Alvarez, Sage Northcutt as like the top names from like the Western MMA world, and they got like the top names from the Western Thai boxing world, like guys like myself and Cosmo and people like that. But then they've also got like Nikki Holskin, Andy Sauer, and like all like Petrosian, Jabba. But they then also got the biggest names from like the Asian world and like the Middle East. So they've really taken what was an MMA-dominated industry and said, "You guys like this, but hey, look at all these guys. You know what I mean? Look at these world-class athletes that have been overlooked for essentially like the last 5 to 10 years, and now people are like, oh man, these guys are awesome." And it's kind of like building the sport again and giving like the other athletes the respect that they deserve. If you go back to like the Evolution days, like what's that, 8 years ago now, and like that was like the biggest show in the world almost for Thai boxing, other than what was going on in Thailand, especially in the Western world, Kickboxing was big, Glory was doing big things, and like Bellator kickboxing. But as far as Thai boxing goes in the Western community, Evo was the thing, right?
Yeah.
So, and it was almost like you made it to Evo, like you made it to the equivalent of one championship now.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see there's a platform that people can aim towards now, rather than just fighting on the local shows at the local tavern and getting paid $500 or whatever. It's like now it's like, man, I can actually make a career out of this, and I can afford to put food on the table for my family out of something that I'm passionate about. It's really cool.
Yeah, and kind of like it grows the quality of the sport when you give a generation of up-and-comers something to aspire to, because that's kind of what really played a hand in Muay Thai status lowering, is like any young kid who's getting into fighting, he wants to fight in the UFC. Because,
for sure.
And fair play, people want to make some good coin fighting, and they want to fight on a big stage. Like, for a time, Muay Thai didn't really have a stage if you weren't going to go and move over to Thailand. Like, one championship really gives that mainstream kind of platform for people to shoot for.
Exactly, man. And the downside at the time when, in terms of trying to make money, like when the main stage for Thai boxing was in Thailand, the money's not good in Thailand, bro. It's a third world country. You know what I mean? Like, and you can't get the same sponsorship because there's not the same broadcasting and things like that. Whereas now, like one championship, they've got 1.8 billion viewers, bro. Like that's massive, man. So the sponsorship potential, everything, like you can actually make a successful career out of fighting again as a Thai boxer or a kickboxer. Whereas for a long time, it was like you could have a successful career, but you were still working a 9 to 5, or you were still working some kind of job, or you were living in pretty poor conditions because there's not a lot of money in Thai boxing in this country. But I think this is the thing, like when Evo was around, there was a lot more money in Thai boxing because they set a standard. They set like, this is the benchmark, this is the A-League, this is where you want to get to. and this is what we pay you guys. And then the next level down was like, well, this is what we're going to pay. And then the next level, so it kind of added some sort of structure. Whereas when Evo like stopped and like shows like Total Carnage, War on the Shore, Knees of Fury, they all kind of stopped at the same time.
Yeah,
so all the kind of little shows were like offering like, they were offering shit money that they knew that they were taking the piss. You know what I mean? They shouldn't have been offering guys like me to fight Eli Madigan $500. You know, like so it was like now that one championship is back, like they set a standard. They set a benchmark for the sport. Like this is the top. This is what we're paying you guys. This is how we're looking after. It's not even about the money necessarily, but this is like, this is how we're looking after you. This is what we're going to do for you. This is how we're going to build your profile, build your career, and do this. So then all these other promotions are like, well, you know what? Let's follow suit because they're obviously making money. So let's kind of like try and like follow their footprint, so to speak. You know. 100%. So I think it's positive for everyone, man. For MMA, for Thai boxing, for kickboxing, for boxing, for jiu-jitsu. I just think it makes the whole sport bigger and brings the community closer together again, man. There's a big divide for a long time. Thai boxers hated boxers. Boxers hated Thai boxers.
For real.
MMA guys used to call us Thai boxers skinny little weasels. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, I mean, but now everyone's like, oh, you do Thai boxing? Oh, cool. Let's train together. You know, it's cool, man.
Yeah. It's like fighting's fighting, right? Like, there's just different ways to do it.
Of course, man. When that cage door shuts or you're in that ring, man, it's still two dudes that, like, want to win and like, you know what I mean, win at all costs. Like, it is what it is. The rule set might be different, but it's still essentially the same thing.
Yeah.
You know?
Just,
So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, man.
So like just going to the last little thing from there. So talking about that, you know, everything's been about fighting for you ever since your young age, but now you're kind of going a little bit out. You're still using it, but also like going outside the box a little bit and doing motivational speaking for like for troubled youths. Like how did you get into that? And like, you know, and how's the whole experience been?
Yeah, man, it's really it's nice to know that I've given back through. I mean, like you hear a lot of people when they talk about like the sport, they're like, man, I've given my everything to this sport, and you know, I've given so much of myself. And whereas I see it as the opposite, man. I feel like the sport has given me so much. You know, like at the end of the day, man, I spend every single day in the gym with my dad, who's my best mate. I travel the world. I fight these guys. I mean, I don't have to work a job that I hate. There's nothing negative about my life, man. I'm truly blessed. As corny as it sounds, like everything in my life is perfect. You know, I wouldn't change anything. So for me, it's nice to know that like through something that's given me so much, if I can then pay that forward and hope that like if I talk to these like young lads, not even necessarily just the young kids that are troubled, just anyone that's having a tough time or you know like lost for a bit of direction, I think it's important to be able to pay that back. And again, that's what keeps this thing going around, you know. But the funny part of it is what actually really got me into it is when I was younger, I kind of went off the rails a little bit and got myself into not a lot of trouble, but you know, like as you do as a teenager. And a guy that my dad used to train was a bouncer at one of the major clubs in Brisbane, and I was always underage, sneaking in and getting into fights and whatever else, you know. And he always used to look out for me. He always like look after me, and if things ever got real serious, he'd always like be there, you know. And at the time, I thought like, hey man, like look at this, I'm getting into this nightclub and I'm doing this, I'm doing that. But the thing was, is he was like looking after me, and I just was too young and naive to see it, you know. So anyway, he ended up becoming a cop, and he trained with us. He had a few fights and whatever else, and he got stationed out at Doomadgee, which is like rural Queensland for a while. But he ended up getting moved around to Harvey Bay. We were actually doing a seminar at a martial arts club in Harvey Bay, and he rang me and he said, "Hey man, I've got this group of young kids that are like, some of them are fresh out of like juvie, some are like about to go to juvie, some like their parents want nothing to do with them. It was through the Salvation Army. Would you be interested in having a chat with them?" I was like, man, for sure, because that was me, you know. Like I was at a point where I'd gone off the rails and I'd stopped training for a little bit. I was at a crossroads in my life, and it was my dad that kind of came home from work one day and just gave me like the most motivational talk that I'd ever heard. And I was like, man, I've got to get myself back in the gym and do something with myself. And that's what kind of put me back on the right track. So I was like, this is my chance to, like I said, pay it forward. So I did it, man. And you know, they had like a cop there that was like not my mate, a different cop that kind of like, so the idea was I smashed pads for these kids and kind of got their attention, and they were like, whoa, you know, like seeing a dude with like tattoos and tattoos on his hands and like scars on his face, whatever. They were like, oh, it's cool. So like they fully tuned in, right? And before I spoke, this cop wanted to say a few words, and this cop was just like, and he was just a knob, bro. Like he just spoke to these kids like they were pieces of shit, And I could just see like they just completely switched off from the whole thing. They were like, oh yeah, here we go. This is the same old shit. Get back in school. If you don't go back to school, you're gonna be bums and drug addicts and this and that. And like, so anyway, after he stopped talking, I got up and I was like, oh, anyway, so like everything that guy said, like, ignore it. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about, man. He's never been in this position. He's had everything given to him his whole life, Like, so anyway, like I told him my story and I told him how I came up and how it is like the positivity of martial arts and being surrounded by positive people, like everything else. And like they all came up and they were like wanted to look at my belts and they wanted to hit pads, and it was like I was like, man, this is like a really cool thing. And then like a month later, I checked in with my mate. I was like, hey man, did any of those like kids do anything? He's like, bro, over half of them joined the gym that day. I was like, okay, and how many of them stayed? He said, all of them. I was like, man, this is like the coolest thing. I said, what are they doing? Are they still like doing drugs? And he's like, nah, man, they're like their new addiction is like health and fitness, bro. They're convinced that they want to fight. I was like, this is the coolest thing. So from there, just kind of like just similar to my fight career, I just started doing more and more, and I've got some things in the pipeline that I'm working on at the moment. Like when it's all said and done, I'll let you guys know. You'll be the first to know. But I don't know, man. I just love it, bro. I think it's important to, like I said before, about like protecting your record and things like that. And I think about legacy. For me, like especially now, like I've got a young daughter and things like that. And it's like I want people to look back and it's not necessarily who you were, but what you did that counts. It's like I can bash people all day long, but that doesn't make me a good person. It doesn't leave a mark on the world. Like life's short, man, and it's unpredictable. Who knows what could happen tomorrow? So to know that I left some sort of mark and some sort of positivity in the world it's important to me. I know it sounds corny and people are like, oh yeah, you're just saying that on a podcast, but man, I truly mean that. It's like I'm passionate about it, man. So yeah, man, like that's it. It's just cool, and we get young guys that come in the gym all the time, and it's cool to see them turn their lives around, man. And even older guys, bro. We have guys that come in like they're like fresh out of prison and still doing the wrong things, and they come in and they train, and like, man, like in a matter of no time, they're like completely reformed, And it's like, and that's not something that we've done. That's in them, man. Like someone that wants to change, someone that can change wants to change. It's like you can't take someone and tell them to be something that they're not, but sometimes people just need a bit of help finding that thing that's already in them, And I think that's what, like, it's up to us. And I feel like as a champion too, like it's not about what you do in the ring. It's like you said, what you do outside the ring and how you inspire others, man. And that's like my whole team's like slogan is like stay positive, stay motivated. And that's always been our thing. And I think if I can continue to share that message and spread it, then the world might not be a better place for everyone, but it might be a better place for one person, and that's enough, man.
Yeah, I think to hear that, I really like to hear someone who's where you are in our sport say that because in the last couple of years myself as well, like I've started to really take an interest in kind of bringing sort of younger kids up, and you put it really well to say like I think I've kind of said on this show before is like nothing you really do with fighting is that important in the grand scheme. It's important as we make it. But you can use fighting as a vehicle to do something that is really important. And me, like yourself, like I started training when I was quite young, and like I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have that kind of focus. And like I think if more fighters took it, because we actually touched on this just before we started recording, is like as a fighter, as someone who does this, young men, young boys in particular, they really listen to you. Like, not the way that they listen to teachers and cops and authority figures. Like, they actually listen, like, they care what you have to say. And, like, that's important, because then what you say, because some people who are, it's something that I've had to be conscious of, is that, like, I can't say some stupid shit when I'm around a class of kids that are about to listen to me if I was to say something ignorant or something, like, because they're going to listen to that and that will really become, oh, he beats people up and he said that. So that's a cool thing to say, like it's that element of responsibility.
Yeah, you got to lead by example, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, I think especially our sport already has a bad name. I mean, it's definitely getting better, but for a long time, our sport was tarnished by the media. It was tarnished by people's perceptions. And I think it's important for us to defy that for a start and show people that, you know what, man, like we are actually intelligent, educated people.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, like I dropped out of high school when I was young and I fit the mold, man. I fit the mold of like, this guy's not going anywhere. He's not going to be anything with his life. And people told me that, man. Like my best friend's parents told me that. But the only people that told me that I would be something were my parents, because they knew what I had inside me, you know. And I think not everybody is lucky to have that. So if you can be that person to somebody, it's really important, man. And that doesn't just have to be with like disengaged youths or people that are like struggling with mental health. You know, like I do stuff with like the people that get bullied and like cyberbullying and, you know, and no one's immune from that, bro. You know, like I mean, like I'm a professional fighter, like ranked number 5 in the world, and I mean, it still happens to me online, bro. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's like the highs and lows of life. You know, like I said, my life's perfect, man. It really is, but that doesn't mean that I don't have my struggles. You know what I mean? Like I have nothing to complain about, but I still have like dark times. But the thing that helps me get through that is like being surrounded by people that I love and people that love me and that have the same passions and interests, and like rather than like turn to going out drinking or whatever else, like for me it's going to the gym. You know, some people go to church when they're feeling down. I go to the gym, man, and like you said, not everybody has that, but they like it's there and they just need to find it sometimes. And man, I don't even tell people that they have to go to the gym and start training martial arts. Like it could be anything, man. Like pick up a guitar, you know, like write poetry, write songs, write rap, write, you know what I mean? Like go for a run or do an art class or do some yoga or, you know, who cares, man? Like just do something that gets you out of the day-to-day, like the mundane thing that gets you to a point where you're like, I just don't know if I want to do this anymore. You know what I mean? Like that's just a voice in your head, but there's like 50 other voices that will override that if you allow them to, you know? So it's, I think you're right, man. I think it's important for, as not even just as athletes, but as coaches, as people, like it's important to lead by example and show people that, like, you know, it's not cool to disrespect people. It's not cool to talk shit online. It's not cool to like disrespect women. It's not cool to like be racist. It's not cool to talk shit on this. And you know what I mean? It's cool to be there for people. It's cool that it's not funny to make fun of someone that's having a bad time. It's cool to lift your hand out and help them up. You know what I mean? Like. That's my thought process anyway, man. And I've kind of always been like, even when I was young, you know, like I always remember people used to make fun of Are You OK Day and things like that. And I used to think, like, why is that funny? You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. Like you say, Are you okay? And someone says no, and you find it funny. Like that makes you a bad person. You're not funny. You're just a bad person. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's like, you know, and it's great. Like, you know, I think on that note we'll end it. Like, it's a very powerful, positive message, and it's like it's awesome to see that, like, within our community of, like, you know, professionals and like you know, just representing us, like we got someone like you out on the forefront. It's like, you know, just kind of just breeding that positive message and kind of like saying you can turn it around to these younger people. They definitely need it, and they need more people. And it's like that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. You just got to take one look at what's going on in the media at the moment, and it's like something's got to change, man. And I think, like I said, not without like going down another rabbit hole, but like you see what's happening in Victoria the last couple of weeks. A kid got stabbed to death, and then like moments later, there's another massive gang fight, and it's like, well, what, man? Like, what is this shit? And it's got to come down to like these people have the wrong role models in their lives, man. Like that's a learned behavior from somewhere, man. Whether it's, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love hip hop and shit like that, but it could be from the music they listen to. It could be the fact that they're seeing things on social media, or they don't understand the difference between social media and real life. So when they see people like talking shit online or whatever, then they just carry it through. I don't know, man. I think that things have got to change, and it's up to us to change it. It's not going to change itself, you know?
No, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
And like what we need is people such as yourself that have that. It's easy to take, like, have a status, like, you know, a position on the one championship roster, have a platform, and just kind of serve yourself with it. I think, like, to see someone like yourself, you know, when we're sitting here talking, you're choosing to kind of just send that message of like positivity. Like, it makes a massive difference. So I think like you're doing really good things, and And it not only makes a difference to the people that you're speaking to, but encourages other people in this world, in this fighting world, to kind of be like, yeah, I should try to send a message of positivity and make a difference. So you're doing great things.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. So like, look, Elliot, the people's champ. It's like
Come
you.
on, guys,
like,
make me blush.
It's been very awesome talking to you today, mate.
Thank you.
Yeah, very appreciative of your time as well.
Thanks for having me, man. I love spreading the message, and like I said, I love how you guys are helping rebuild the sport with this podcast, man. It's great. I love it.
Yeah, like seriously, man. Literally could do another 2 hours.
Yeah, for real. There's a lot of good stuff in there.
Definitely. Yeah. Cool. Look, like, tell everyone where they can find you as well. Like, Instagram or whatever platform.
Yeah, man. I'm on all social media channels: Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, a little bit. You can look me up through my gym website, teamcompton.co. I've got an online tutorials page that I'm running called Team Compton Tutorials through the website. I'm new to TikTok. Yeah. So yeah, man, like, you type my name into Google, you'll find me. If you ever have any questions or you want to talk about anything, and like, I reply to everyone, bro. It might take me a couple of weeks, but I'll get there. So yeah, man, just shoot me a message. I'm always down to talk, and if you want to tag me in your training videos and ask questions, I'm all about it, bro. So yeah, it's cool.
Great, excellent. So same with us. If you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe to our channel. You can also listen to us on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, and all podcast platforms as always. And hey, if you like it, share it with your friends. But other than that, we'll catch you next time. Okay, see ya.
Awesome.